respected dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol stands observed. It is my honor to be here today in discussing a very important topic in this August gathering at the kickoff of the Curaçao AI strategy. I'd like to start this presentation by this quote which really inspires me, and it gives me a lot to think about. And that is by Ray Kurzweil. Some of you might know him, but those who don't, he's an American data scientist, computer visionary, and something he calls himself a futurist. He's thinking about the time when machines and humans will fuse. It sounds very futuristic indeed, but he has a prediction when that is going to happen. By the way, that he predicted that will happen by 2050, but by looking at the current trends, he believed that's going to happen even earlier. And in this quote, Ray Kurzweil is saying that we are experiencing a hyper growth in terms of how technology is progressing. So what would otherwise take 20,000 years is now taking just 100 years. And imagine if we are living in this kind of a time frame and this kind of era, what sort of strategies, what sort of thinking, what sort of innovations and policy making is expected of us? So this gives us a lot to think about and gives a perspective of the world we are living in today. And when I think about quotes like these and here at futurists who are predicting a humanity of a certain era, I take a few steps back and think about this tug of war that has been going on eternally between machines and human beings. From time immemorial, our ancestors have tried to see how we can delegate some of our tasks and some of our abilities to machines, and what sort of machines can create better productivity, better efficiency, and better quality of output than us. And that progression has gone on. But today, with the artificial intelligence, we are living in a time where machines might even overpower us. This might sound very futuristic again, something sort of a sci-fi scenario, but it is coming true. Because, when we are talking about the thinking around AI, let's start to ask ourselves a question: what is artificial intelligence, and whether we see everyday use of AI in our lives? As we've heard fantastic presentations looking at how AI is already being applied in Curaçao and in different parts of the world. But I would just like to ask you, have you been using AI other than ChatGPT? Can you think of use cases in your lives where you think, okay, I am using AI other than a chatbot like Gemini or Anthropic or Claude? I see some people nodding. What are some of the examples would you like to quote? Anybody would like to say from the audience? Any example? Yes, I see people mumbling and kind of understanding and recognizing this. But let me kind of give a few examples from the screen that we have. So the personalized recommendations on our streaming apps, that is all AI. It is around us more than we think. Another example, voice-enabled assistants. We are all kind of familiar with Alexa or Siri. That is AI. It is around us in our homes, understanding how we think, how we live, how we behave. So this is all AI-powered technology. Even taxi booking apps like Uber, Ola is in some parts of the world, but Bolt, this is all AI. They are using the same systems. And this is all kind of simpler forms of AI, I have to add, because we will see how to think about AI and what else it can do. Facial recognition systems, how we open our phones, how we enter buildings, how we also recognize ourselves at offices. So all that is also AI in our lives. Fraud detection, all our emails put some spam in a different folder, that is also AI. Or speech recognition, voice-enabled apps, again. And even weather predictions, whether it's going to rain today or not, whether it's going to be snowing somewhere, or how much heat can we expect, all of that again. So this is around us and entrenched in our lives more powerfully than we think. And then, if it is so much around us, and today we are here to discuss this very technology, how do we understand AI? What is AI, and what do we make sense of it? What would be the basic bare-bone definition of AI? And the definition is in the name itself, artificial intelligence. So the intelligence that is artificial. But then, what is intelligence? How do we understand how our brains work? And that is a question I'm going to leave you with, because that is something that hopefully our brains will still figure us out in understanding what exactly is happening. But simplistically putting, and even NASA's definition is machines that have intelligence like human. It is somewhere close. So it's a very easy way to understand, and that is also true. Although the EU AI Act, something which is more complex and more nuanced, is looking at AI as machine-based systems that can operate autonomously and that will adapt. It will become more intelligent after use. So that is something that the EU AI Act specifically lists in the definition. Again, look at how the inferring and generating adaptation, its intelligence growing, is something to think about, right? The conversations around AI have been, as many of you already know, it's been going on. In fact, the term was invented or coined as early as 1956 in the US. And since then, AI conversations and research has seen many winters and many summers. But now with generative AI, when OpenAI launched ChatGPT for free, and then we saw other models also come in, that's when people started to take notice and say, okay, now AI is closer to me than I ever thought. We talked about what intelligence is, and interestingly, between different tech companies, they've tried to take credit as to who actually created the technology before everybody else. But the transformer neural networks, and that's way too technical, so I'm not going into it, but it is very important for me to put it the T. And as they say, the Google researchers invented it first, but OpenAI went to the market beforehand. So that is something that has been the tug of war between the tech companies. I have a question for you. I mean, I believe most of you would know ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Anthropic. Is it a weak AI or is it a strong AI? What would you say? Is it a weak AI or is it a strong AI? I mean, considering how intelligent we think it is. Strong. I'm hearing some strong. Interesting. Okay. Some people are saying weak on some days. Okay, also true. Honestly speaking, if we were to determine what is weak and strong by the capacities, actually, ChatGPT is still a narrow/weak AI. And why would I say that? Why would this definition hold that way? It is because at the end of the day, it is just a chatbot. It comes up with different outputs. Of course, it could be pictures, it could be predictions, it could be a machine code, but we are giving it a prompt and it is coming up with an output. Imagine what strong AI would be and what kind of AI can we expect. So let's look at the slide which will tell you the kind of AI or the types of AI that are out there or are in making. So the reactive AI, this is where a large chunk of data is going into the machine. It is being trained, but it is just kind of automated, right? So you give a prompt, it gives an answer for a very specific field. And the weather predictions is an example, or the examples from the YouTube or Spotify, those are reactive AI because we are asking very specific tasks from very specific data. But then there are limited memory machines, and memory is a core functionality. Sometimes when you ask ChatGPT, what did I ask you last Monday? Can you come up with the examples of what was there beforehand that I asked you? It will not be very clear because it can't store memories. So ChatGPT actually is a limited memory machine because it cannot remember what we were asking it from last months or years. And that is where more and more progression around theory of mind/artificial general intelligence is evolving. Again, this is sounding very sci-fi, but if you look at OpenAI's initial mission and vision, they were structuring their entire methodology around creating an artificial general intelligence machine. So what would AGI be, and why all of the big tech conversations are around cracking the code of AGI? Now, AGI is when the AI technology will start to understand human reasoning, the intelligence part that we talked about. So it will start to become also as almost human-like intelligent, and we will be able to do many more tasks than just a chatbot. So it will be able to create even more personalized information saying, hey, be careful. Generally on 9:20 in the morning, you have your second cup of coffee. Have you had it yet? So it would be as specific and even more so. But guess what? This is not the end of it. There is something even beyond the AGI theory that is emerging. And that is, any guesses from the audience, or somebody could say what this could be? Sorry? Yes, super intelligence, indeed. So this is where AI technology will become almost self-aware. Because at the end of the day, the current AI machines are not aware of themselves. They don't know what they are. If you ask it their preference, they will say, no, I'm just an AI, I'm just a machine. I can't answer this kind of a question. But then the progression, we don't know when it will be. According to Ray Kurzweil, it will be now not 2050, but 2045 or 2039, as some of the futurists say. But this is where the AI will become more intelligent than even human cognition. And again, this I'm not saying to scare you all, but this is where the predominant conversations around AI are converging. What does it tell us? And where should we be prepared, how should we be prepared for? And where should we be working towards? Well, again, let's look at how different ways of thinking about AI are. In fact, one of the professors in the UK, called Professor Richard Susskind, has given 6 different ways of thinking about AI. And he starts with the basic, the efficiency tool, where AI is just doing the automated task. It is giving more efficiency, more productivity, the way we know it as now. And this is something that is really encouraged in different, public sector, private sector organizations. It becomes a little more matured, where it becomes an augmentation tool. And what do we mean by being an augmentation tool? This is where AI is helping us with a little more intelligent parts of our work. For example, helping us with our research, or figuring it out how to kind of organize the processes, how to divide resources, etc. So this is where we start to rely more and more in terms of just working with AI. And again, this is also highly encouraged because you are leveraging the technology to offload some of your tasks for you to be, focusing more on the human-like task, and we will come to that. Then AI is a source of new insights, and this is interesting, right? Because right now, we know something based on the data that we have. But when machines become so intelligent that it can process a lot of data, for example, as they say, a machine can be more powerful than, a machine doctor which is trained on thousands and thousands of gigabytes of data compared to one human doctor. Of course, one can argue till the end of the day that what is better, a human judge or an AI judge, or a human doctor or an AI doctor. But AI will end up with coming up with some newer insights than we ever even can imagine, just because of the amount of data it has been trained on and amount of exposure that it has. Conversely, AI can also be a provider of access, in a way creating situations where people who were never in the digital ecosystem, or the kind of conversations they were never on the table or never included, can now get their voices heard. But on the flip side, it can even create those power hierarchies where some people are left out forever, and those who are digitally literate or those who have access to technology will have more power than ever before. So that is again a conversation to have. Going a little further, and again towards the sci-fi realm, is that AI as a partner in collective intelligence. So some of you might know that Elon Musk and others in the US are creating those neural chips because they believe that human cognition will have limits at some point, that we will have to enhance our memories or enhance our capacity, where we have to let machines in to think through with us. Well, I don't know, maybe it sounds really scary, but that is the technology that they are working on, and billions of dollars are going towards it, like it or not. And then, lastly, AI as a mirror to humanity. And again, some of the professors, and if you are interested, please look them up, Professor Susskind or Professor Ray Kurzweil, they are saying mirror to humanity, meaning we will discover newer insights from across the different planets, for example, or AI will kind of do all of the tasks. We don't have to do the mundane work that we have been doing. Now, let's stick to the couple of kind of use cases that we are more comfortable with, or which are more predominant in our lives today. And what are the opportunities and risks? And I'll just list down a few from the ones that I've mentioned on the screen here. Of course, there are going to be immense opportunity with technology like this. Personalized learning. AI will be able to teach us what we individually need to learn the way we like to learn. And imagine how powerful that will be. Personalized learning for each child, for example, or much better healthcare advancement, newer, newer kind of medicines, or newer kind of discovery in the pharmaceutical sector, or newer kinds of resource management techniques, safety enhancements, much better cybersecurity practices. Or, for example, of course, we looked at the improved efficiency or better climate modeling so that we can prevent the climate disasters, better accessibility and better inclusion, to enhance decision-making in judiciary, in public sector, in public-private sectors coming together. So there are going to be a lot of innovative solutions across the board that opportunities will open up because of AI. And this is still at the couple of first levels that we discussed. But on the other hand, and this is where the balance part comes in, right? Because with all of the opportunities that are coming with AI, there are also going to be risks and newer kind of vulnerabilities and newer kind of risk for the society. For example, we talked about the concentration of power. But again, if the data, and we discussed that earlier, if the data is not clean, or if the data is not available, or worse, if data is discriminatory or if it is biased, then as they say, garbage in is garbage out. So what kind of output will the machines create? Or, of course, there are going to be cybersecurity enhancement, but on the other side, there'll be newer risks. The fraudsters will be able to come up with the kind of more advanced, so everybody has the access to the technology, right? So it can also be misused to great extent, and we have to be prepared for it, of course, regulatory, economically, societally, mentally. There are other ethical dilemmas, cultural nuances, and why I say this is that AI technologies are now created in some parts of the world. It is not geographically distributed, or it's not democratic. And who's creating these AI systems at the end of the day? Is their culture, their thinking uniform? Of course not. Then we also need to make sure that the development of AI is also democratic. There is, of course, lack of transparency. Once we train the machine on a lot of data, we don't know what answer is going to come up because of the black box system. And then there are a few which are touching us personally. Loss of human connection. We see, because AI algorithms on social media apps is hooked on to make us more and more addicted, and they are so good at understanding what kind of content we like, that we are becoming more and more dependent on these technologies. And unfortunately, this is leading to loss of human connection. So that is also a real danger. And the last one, and then I will go to the next slide, is about existential risk. And why this is a pertinent one is because we don't know what the technology can be in the next 5 years or 10 years. Because we are at the cusp of just the starting of it. We don't know what it can create from itself. As they say in the definition, it will become more intelligent after deployment. So, well, there is a lot to think about there. At the end of the day, what is important, and technology is a means to an end. So if we are clear about the vision that we are working towards, or our goal, the human centricity in creating those systems and processes and machines, that is key. So in a way, creating systems, processes, technology in a way that people can easily understand and learn, that could be a very important focus that should never go out of line. Some of the key consideration around policy making, or around kind of thinking about the roadmap for national deployment around AI, is that more and more collaborations, multi-stakeholder partnerships, public sector, private sector, but also civil society, academia, citizens, startups, everybody has to come together and converge to discuss, okay, what kind of roadmap we want to create. Proportional compliance, the balance again between the right kind of regulation, but also leaving space for innovation. That is important. Niche focus and comparative advantage. For a geography like Curaçao, it can be a fantastic tool to operate on a comparative advantage, grow very successfully in that particular domain, and create an international use case. With AI, what is important is to understand, what is working, what is not working, and right kind of monitoring and evaluation is key. Capacity building, digital literacy, even EU AI Act is saying that everybody who uses AI system or deploys it, they have to make sure people who use it are trained on what is AI, how it can be risky, what are the opportunities, so that is key also. Regional cooperation, sustainability and resource planning, we've seen that, and ethical and human-centric approaches and foundations. So those will create the right kind of means towards an end which is inclusive, which is bringing everybody together, and stepping towards achieving a greater purpose. At the end of the day, innovation is technology, yes, but along with that, innovation is also product design strategy. It is also the right kind of business models. It is also the right kind of regulatory and compliances. Of course, with human and organizational strategy, as well as impact and sustainability strategy. And these are naming just the few big ones. So innovation is all of these things and not just technology. And that is important as we go forward to keep in mind constantly. I like this picture a lot, the yin and the yang. There is bad in the good and good in the bad. That is the kind of balance, right? And that kind of duality with opportunities and risk that is ever so present in conversations surrounding AI. And let's not forget and let's not kind of, not embrace it and go with that duality that it's going to be tough. It's going to be a lot of ethical questions, a lot of yes and no's, and kind of navigating around, okay, how we can make it work for everyone. And at the end of the day, I asked ChatGPT, how can that collaboration between machines and humans can work? And it came up with a very interesting answer. It says, where human intuition meets machine precision, the potential for greatness unfolds. How very wonderful, ChatGPT. Thank you so much for giving us this wise answer. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for your attention. Masha, thank you.